welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, Mark from Rams Up here. Now, a few hours ago, we heard about the trade and I posted a little video on it on the channel. And there are some really, really negative responses from Ram fans. And I got Ian. Ian's here to join me. No Paul Walliott today. And I have a feeling, Ian, you're kind of negative about this. How do you feel about this trade? Are you an angry Ram fan today?
Am I angry? No. Am I disappointed that we ended up here? Yeah. Guys, it's always crappy to see a player that you won a championship with, who was a big contributor, who was a leader, see them gone just like that, And I'm more disappointed and sad that we ended up here more than angry. Now, the reason why I am not angry is because I think the writing's been on the wall for quite some time. We've talked about it here on this podcast weeks ago when Ernest Jones was making his return to practice after sitting out some time with the knee issue flaring up. And I said it, you said it, and Paul said it, that, man, oh, man, this is a major red flag, and this is giving that Todd Gurley, Terrell Lewis vibes, where it's good one week, knee's not good the other. Missed game here, he's good for this game. And the Rams do not play with that. And, check out that video roundtable. I'm going to say it was roundtable 46.
Hey, we can throw it up there right now for everybody. You want to play that for everyone?
I think that's a good idea. Then obviously he had 5 weeks or not 5 weeks, excuse me. He had an extra week to recover. He felt good enough, started, wrapping it, doing the special tape to it. And then by the end of the year, he had said, hey, I feel pretty solid. Then we fast forward to the end of the season. We lose to the Lions. And then he's held out of a lot of OTA offseason workout stuff because of that knee flaring up. And it's like, all right, well, better now than later. We all thought, right? We didn't take it too seriously. Then we've noticed, hey, he's wearing a leg compression on that knee throughout all practice. But hey, whatever works for a player, whatever they feel comfortable in to play, and cool. But that is noticeable, right? Having a leg wrapped up on that injured knee. Then we fast forward to Cowboys joint practice, which we will talk about, but he performs well in that. And then the next day, Sean McVay's in one of the worst moods I've seen him since the 2022 campaign in this press conference, talking about injuries, Brennan Jackson being hurt, Bo Limmer, Moro line injuries. And then he mentions Ernest Jones, his knee. He's not practicing. He had his knee flared up again. Not good. Not good that this is a reoccurring issue. And again, I'm happy he is back. But guys, does this not smell like another Todd Gurley, Terrell Lewis situation where it's on? Hey, he's good this week. Next week, it flared up. We don't know if he's going to play or he misses games. Does it not feel like that, gentlemen? Am I wrong, Ram Nation? Everybody, let me know in the comments. And gentlemen up here with me, am I wrong for feeling that way? Sincerely, because man, oh man, this is a lot of knee issues within a year's worth of football. Oh, shoot. There we go. Past tense me.
Yeah, you nailed it. And, I was trying to figure out, the whole knee injury thing, the Rams saying it's reoccurring. And then all of a sudden, hey, we got good news on it. I wonder if the good news on it was about when they decided they were going to try to trade him.
Oh, man, it feels that way, Mark. And today's press conference from Coach McVay was incredibly revealing on when they made this, organizational decision to move on from your middle linebacker, your play caller on defense, or your defensive signal caller, and your captain. So in the press conference today from McVay, he said that it was a football decision, and it was a decision that was made in the best interest of the football team. And, that's a lot of coach speak, and I get all that. And a lot of people will be like, all coaches will say that. But reporters did a good job of digging into him, and McVay was kind of getting a little irritated in this press conference today. And I get it. But he said that it is not a shocking decision based, on what the coaches feel and what he feels and what the organization feels. He feels really fantastic about the group and how they've stepped up when Ernest was not there. He said that The decision to move on Jones started in the off season when he missed time back in the OTA period, and how Ernest was behind schedule on reps, on getting up to speed, and how everyone else stepped up very, very well. That, coupled with Andrew Whitworth's tweets to the fan base, kind of debating our own fandom in the last, hour or so, saying how if a player wasn't going to start, how could you expect him to want to stick around? So Whitworth has some, I think him kind of sputtering that. I don't think he would say that without knowing, right? And he's well connected to the Rams. He knows what's going on there. He is an unofficial coach or an unofficial consultant. However, maybe he is getting some money. Who knows? But those comments by McVay, the comments on Twitter by Whitworth, and all that factors into, hey, this team is known for quite a while that they were ready to say peace out to you, Ernest Jones. And again, the knee is the reason why it happened. No one can convince me otherwise that is not it. Because if you're on the field playing, then you're probably not going to get shipped off, right, Ernest? I mean, it's crappy that the business is like this. The NFL, the not for long league, I kind of say quite frequently on here because things change drastically. I mean, gosh, 2 weeks ago, no one thought this was a possibility. But it seems like Ernest knew. It seems like his agent knew. The Rams have known for months that they were leaning this way. And McVay again said that he feels great about this group. They will not add any outside inside linebacker. He is happy with how the group has formed now that Troy Reeder and Roseboom are going to be the starters per McVay. He did say that Roseboom and Reeder will be the starters day one unless something crazy happens. So, man, oh man, Mark, they've known for months. They've known for months.
There's a lot of perspectives on this, and I don't really even care what they got back in return. It's put it in the rearview mirror, move on with your young guys. They got 5 linebackers, 2 of them, really exciting young players, Neal and Spades, right? And I was hoping Paul could join us and he could start working on some Nicknames for us. But what I've heard about Spades, you hear some of these catchphrases that McVay likes to use. He's a grown-ass man. I think it was one of them. Same thing he said about Jared Verse. So you got, okay, Roseboom and Reeder are the starters day one. Don't be surprised if that changes weeks 3 or 4 or 5. And that's very typical of how the Rams operate. I wouldn't expect Spates, no matter how well he plays, to be a starter Sunday night in Detroit. That's just doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful. I mean, I just like to move on. Ernest Jones, salute him for 3 great years for the Rams. Hope the best for him. But let's just be optimistic that this defense. We'll talk about this depth chart, this 53-man roster in a minute. Man, a lot of unknowns, but hey, it could be a really fun, exciting year.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, right.
And Mark, real quick, just for everyone out there, so everyone's clear on this. McVay is excited about the group, and he and the organization and coaches are not shocked about this move coming. Look at the press conference today. If you're like, hey, what's this guy Ian saying there? Where is he pulling this info? I'm pulling it from our head coach here and what he said. Now, did he say those exact things word for word? No. But listen to the press conference. Our reporters did a good job at poking at him. He got a little irritated. And everything I just said in the last 2-3 minutes about the decision of why they moved on, he said those things. And if that doesn't give you enough info that the knee was not good, I don't know what to tell you. Because, man, man, it's unfortunate. And again, if anyone's on YouTube, thank you very much for tuning in here for the visuals. In my background here, I got Ernest Jones celebrating the Super Bowl 56 victory, and then him making the 4th down fist up in the air when he made a big tackle in that Super Bowl he was a big part of. So Ernest Jones, man, thank you for being an awesome linebacker for us. And in your rookie year playing so good that we won the Super Bowl, and you made some big time plays in that championship Super Bowl game. And he'll be a Rams legend in my books because of that. And I hope he has a good rest of his career, whether it's in Tennessee or somewhere else. But man, oh man, the NFL, not for long, everybody. Don't ever forget that.
Yeah, and my last word on it, when I didn't finish watching the press conference, but both questions, two of the questions I heard, McVay did not hesitate. One, are you going to add any veterans? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Are you going to change things up how you guys operate back there? Absolutely not. They're ready to
Yeah.
go with the guys they got, and that's good to hear.
Yeah.
So enough of Ernest Jones, and we could probably talk another hour about it. But there's
I
a
know.
lot. There's plenty of other things to talk about, and exciting things and worrisome things both. Now injuries and suspensions. We know about Aleric. He'll be back in 2 weeks, and the other tackle. So what is it? Rob Havenstein. We're at 50-50 that he'll be good to go on opening night. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, I mean, per McVay, Rob Havenstein, it's kind of a coin flip. Like, there's a chance he misses, but there's still a chance he could. So they're going to take it day by day. And I mean, we'll find out next week how, if he's out there at all, that'll give a good indication. And then for a lark, it seems that the Rams have known for quite a while that there would possibly be a suspension, as McVay had stated in a press conference earlier this week, that they knew about his situation. And, they were hopeful that a suspension would not happen, but it ended up coming down. And to get suspended, everybody, for, the personal conduct, either the law was involved in some sorts or Alarg was doing something very stupid that was, I don't know, demoralizing the NFL or putting a bad light on them. It's one of those two things. So either way, gosh dang it, Alark. How did you get caught up in a situation like that? And it's ironic that he is also back at practice getting good reps, but he ain't going to be around for the first 2 weeks. How great is that news? So one tackle, our left tackle will not be ready to go come Sunday Night Football. Not good. And then we have our other tackle, who's a coin flip as of today. Not good either. So, I mean, Mark, how do you feel about that? I don't feel good. Aiden Hutchinson one-on-one with some backups. I don't feel good about that. Phew.
Well, I assume it's going to be Noteboom and McClendon, worst case
Feels that way.
scenario, and they're serviceable offensive linemen.
Ugh,
I think it's certainly not ideal.
no,
The backup, I think, it'd be Connor McDermott. I guess.
I guess.
I thought AJ Curry might make this roster. We'll talk
Yeah.
about that later when we get to the 53-man roster, but. Again, be hopeful the Rams will probably try to pound the rock against the Lions with
I hope
Avila
so.
Dotson and Jonah Jackson. Speaking of injuries, Jonah Jackson, D. Will, and Puka all look like they're good to go. So
Woo!
that's
Thank God.
good.
Yeah.
Our interior of our offensive line will be good to go. And
Yeah.
remember, we worry about those tackles. And, if you park Colby Parkinson next to one of those guys, that's going to help a little bit, right? And
I think so. I think
and
so for sure,
our
Mark.
running backs know how to block, and our wide receivers know how to block. So again, I always try to look at the upside. I try to be optimistic.
That's
But
good.
Detroit's a good team, though. Detroit's a good football team, so
They
not
are.
ideal, but it'll
Not
be
not
nice.
ideal. Not ideal. And Mark, real quick, the reason why I'm a little like about the tackle situation going to week one is because we had a fully healthy O line going into that playoff game. And, both our rosters haven't changed extremely dramatically, at least on offense and then their defense. I mean, their secondary has changed, but at least trench warfare, O line, their front seven, D line, linebackers hasn't changed too dramatically. But Stafford got hit a ton with our starting unit out there fully healthy. And I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous about that game, and we'll see how the week progresses of practice, and when the bullets start flying, like people like to say, and when the pads, are thunder and lightning, or what some players like to say, when hitting starts going on in a real game, we'll find out how things are going to go in that game pretty fast. But I'm worried about it. I am.
Well,
I am.
every game is important, but I always look at it this way. Road games against really good football teams, you can afford to lose those and still have a very successful season. So
True.
they get a loss in Detroit. It's not end of the world. I remember how they started last year.
I
It was
know.
not pretty through the first 9 games, but
Yeah.
steal a win. Find a way to steal a win. This is Rams offense has
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of weapons.
we'll need another Stafford superhero performance, no doubt about it. And he's capable. That's a good thing. You have a top five quarterback. You can win any game, anytime, anywhere. Fourth quarter, late in the game where you think you're out. I mean, Stafford's got the most comebacks of any player currently in the NFL. As a quarterback. So we got the guy to do it. But
Yeah, and
oh man,
I think he has revenge on mind about
I
how
hope
that
so.
game went.
Yeah,
So Rams are going to be pumped for that, as will Detroit, of course.
of course,
So
yeah.
the other thing we learned, which maybe we shouldn't have been surprised because I think it
Today
was
was a
you.
crazy day, man. Go ahead, finish. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
yeah, you or Paul. I think both of you said early on when we talked about a couple months ago, I think,
mm,
about what this new kickoff rule is going to mean for return games, and you guys pointed out the punt returns and the kick. Well, you were actually more talking about the kick returns. The kick returns were going to
mhm.
be more like a run play.
Yeah,
So you might think that
I think
someone
so.
like Kyron would return kicks, and then we hear he's going to be the punt returner,
I know it's shocking.
which, yeah, don't quite get it.
I know it's today was a rough day for a lot of our fan base, hasn't it been? You get the
Yeah,
Ernest news, or the week of bad news on that. Kyron being a punt returner with his unfortunate injury history of his own. Let's just be honest about his. We've talked about it on this pod as well. He's missed significant time. His first 2 years in the league. This is now year 3 for him. So it's like, hey, why do you want a guy who's had lower leg injuries or just injuries in general returning punts where you can get smacked around? But per McVay, he says that they want Kyron touching the ball as much as he possibly can, and that he feels fantastic about Blake Corum and Ronnie Rivers, getting snaps on the offense more frequently if it falls that way, with Kyron, returning punts. So that tells me that if Kyron gets injured, that's unfortunate, but we feel good about Blake and Ronnie, picking up the slack, and we're not going to miss a beat, right? That if you look in between the lines in McVay's press conference today. So it is a shocking move. I agree. And, to the kickoff run game, comment that you made about, what me and Paul and yourself have talked about in the previous months. Um, it seems like Kyron would probably fit that better, but it feels like there's going to be way more collisions on the kickoff because everyone's so close together once that ball is caught or hits the landing zone. Punts, there's still some time to react and possibly avoid a full-on car crash collision that I think we're probably going to see a lot of. And a little tidbit that we did see in preseason, I mean, this is big ass hits that are probably going to go down in this new kickoff format. Punt, is that possible? So of course, but there is a little bit more space where you can read and react and dodge a couple big hits and avoid some, big car crash collisions, like that I like to call it. So, hey, if they feel like this is the best way for the offense to have better field position, for a player they trust to, get tough yards, then so be it. Because like we said originally here, Mark, right? Blake Corum was drafted to replace Kyron Williams eventually. No doubt about it. It is about Kyron's injury history and that Blake can fill in when Kyron is out. They're not going to miss a beat. They're not going to have to run certain plays that fit maybe a Ronnie more better, or more better, fit Ronnie better, or whoever would be a Royce Freeman, a Daryl Henderson that we had. So, hey, it just shows me that Blake Corum's done a fantastic job. And it's like, all right, Kyron, if you get banged up, sucks. We wish you were here, but Blake Corum will do your job just fine. And that's a lot.
Yeah,
That's a big development too, at least to me. Shoot.
yeah. What concerns me is we only have three running backs, which
Yeah.
surprised me, and we'll get to that
Yeah.
again when we get to the 53. So hey, they know what they're doing, but I still, um, still surprised. But
No, me
hey,
too.
our special teams were so bad; they're trying to fix it
No,
at least.
I
So,
mean,
so that's
Mark, I don't think people realize, but Rams Nation out there. So with all the advanced stats, you see, EPA, you see all this stuff. So all the advanced stats combined, the Rams special teams unit in 2023 last season was bottom 5 in the last 20 years. Horrible. And obviously, it cost us a playoff game, most likely. It cost us tons of games last year. We could have had a way better record, which is crazy. And I think to that point, Mark, you bringing that up, I mean, they just want our good offensive players just helping out as much as possible. It feels that way, isn't it?
yeah. That's probably a good time to segue into our next topic. Josh
Yeah,
McCarty,
uh,
still a concern there. He's
for
missed one
sure.
field goal and the extra point, and
Not
I
good.
don't. I didn't analyze, the snap, the hold, or anything, but yeah, not good. Hit the post, hit the upright.
Not good.
So another thing to be nervous about going into this game, all these young players, including Cardi, who has
Yeah.
never made a kick in an NFL game,
No,
and you can't say he was, looked great in the preseason. He made a couple
no, you can't.
kicks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. If there's much more to say about it other than to acknowledge.
I know, dude. I mean, look at rookie. Okay, was Greg Zerlin as a rookie perfect before he became Greg the Leg? No, he was not. I get it, everybody. We're just gonna have to deal with the patience, but you know, we're in a compete to get into the Super Bowl, get into the NFC Championship game and have a good playoff run. That is the mold of this roster. Now, you could argue that sending Ernest Jones away, are we really trying to do that? Well, based off McVay's comments, they don't feel that way, and based off the positivity McVay has said about Cardi, even though he's missed those kicks. I get it, coach. It's always good to you know infuse positivity in your players when things aren't going right. Right. I'm sure Brian Flores wishes he did that with Tua. Not to take a shot at them, but so I get McVay's positivity. Even for Cardi's mishaps. But as a fan, not good. Not
No.
good. We're special teams the last 20 years last year. Let's not continue that trend, please. And I hope
Yeah.
Cardi is clutch, and I hope there is some big 50-plus yard field goals, and I hope there is not a missed PAT like it was this last preseason game. Because, whoo, baby, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of nonsense going on this last 2-3 months, huh, Mark?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't think Ethan Evans has impressed either. He's
yeah.
another area of
He has a
concern. But
strong leg, and maybe they're coaching him to kick differently because of the. I mean, who knows? I mean, again, when push comes to shoves, week 1 and beyond, we're going to find out a lot about schemes and how they want to attack opposing teams on special teams, kickoff, punt, kick return. But there hasn't been a lot of positive. Shoot.
yeah, hey, before we move on to our 53-man roster, I meant to
Yeah.
add a note here. Rams named their captains. Really no, well, actually, there was one surprise. Well, we got Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp,
Cool. Cool.
Big Rob Havenstein,
Cool.
and Kobe Turner and Quentin Lake.
I think
Right?
that's right. To be honest with you,
Yeah, yeah,
the Rams. The 3 captains from last year on defense are no longer on the team. Jordan Fuller was not re-signed. He's on Carolina now, I believe. Aaron Donald's retired for the moment, even though, now he's racing LaShawn McCoy on the street and beating him. And Whitworth is on podcasts, kind of giving the winky eye about Aaron Donald's playing days and how that's probably not over just yet. Cool. And then Ernest Jones was shipped away to Tennessee today. Plus, Raheem Morris is coaching his own team now in Atlanta. So your 4 leaders on defense are no longer here. So who filled those voids? Well, who does McVay talk about the most? And guys, McVay's press conference, you can learn so much in the way he talks about things and talks about players. Talked a great deal about the emergence of Kobe Turner. So not a shock that he's a captain, right, Mark? And then he's talked for years about how he really loves Quentin Lake, our safety / big nickel / star corner defensive back. And not a shock that those two got it. And I think if you're going to choose 2 guys to lead the way on defense, I think those are the right 2 guys. They're going to be on the field every snap. There's no doubt about it. Those 2 are not coming off the field no matter what it feels like. And you want guys that are going to be in there, play in and play out on defense to be your leaders. And I think they chose the right 2, or the players, our team chose the right 2 guys. And, the players aren't going to vote somebody they don't like or they don't think deserves it. The Rams have never been that way since the McVay era started in 2017. So players got it right, I feel. And I think they'll do a good job, doing their own leadership style in place of Ernest Jones. And how do you feel
yeah.
about it,
And
Mark?
all you got to do is hear. Speaking specifically about Kobe and Quentin, just
Yeah.
if you've ever heard Quentin Lake interviewed, and Kobe Turner as well, you can tell they've got it together. They are
Yeah. Yeah.
mature guys that have it
Mhm.
together. And one of the things that came up in the press conference, which I think McVay kind of dodged, was who's going to wear the green dot. He
I know.
obviously maybe hasn't made a decision yet, but I figured it's going to be Quentin Lake, right?
It's very possible. Let's think about it real quick, everybody. So, who in the past on this starting defense now has worn it? Troy Reader has worn it during the Super Bowl season, so he has experience. John Johnson, when he was a part of the number 1 defense in 2020, he has worn it for an entire year. Roseboom has worn it on and off preseason and regular season in the past. Who else has worn it? I think those three. I think that might be it. I'm trying to think. Sorry, everybody. I'm blanking. I'm thinking in real time here. But if Quentin Lake is on the field all the time and they want a captain to have it, he's a for sure candidate. And Cameron Curl, being obviously a safety who I think is probably going to never come off the field as well, is probably a candidate as well. So it has to be somebody who is never going to get off the field. So Quinn Lake's in that category. I think Cameron Curl's in that category. And I think Roseboom is in that category as well. And John Johnson, we don't know how things are going to shake. Are we just going to run the nickel package all the time, where that is 5 defensive backs, 2 linebackers, and 4 up front, not D linemen, but front 7 guys, 2 outside linebackers, 2 D tackles? That's a very strong possibility, but who knows what's going to happen. But Mark, who do you think, if you had to choose one guy today to have it, who would you choose? I'm just curious.
It'd have to be Quentin Lake. That would be my guess.
I'm going to lean towards him as well. I mean, make the captain the green dot guy. It's going to make life simple for everybody, and I think that's the right move as well.
Yeah, and there is a lot of inexperience on this defense, obviously, and that's why guys like John Johnson, Cameron Curl, he's been around a little bit. Troy Reeder, D. Will, those guys are going to be Trey White. There is some experienced guys that I think this defense is going to have to lean on them, not so much during the game, but in the locker room at halftime, in preparing for big games, playoff experience too. A lot of these guys have playoff experience, so that could be really, be important down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I expect us to be in nickel or dime a majority of the time. Now, everybody, we do run a 3-4 defense where it's 3 D tackles. One of them's a nose tackle straight up on the center. Our 2 outside linebackers, Verse and Byron Young, and then we'll have the 2 traditional inside linebackers. Now it's Roseboom and Reeder. Then we have 2 corners, 2 safeties. Now, I think when we go in the nickel or dime, where you have more defensive backs on the field, 100%, John Johnson's going to be a traditional safety with Cameron Curl in the back end deep, and then Quentin Lake is going to be that big nickel star slot corner, whatever name you want to throw out there for it. He is going to be that guy because no one else could take that position for him. They tried out Darion Kendrick. They tried out Russ Yeast there. They had Kobe Durant there in previous years, and none of them could do as good of a job as Quentin Lake. So he's going to be there primarily. Is he going to be in the traditional up top spot? I think so as well. I mean, I expect all our safeties to be moved around a ton just based off, the teams that we play. So, okay, we'll see what happens. But Quentin Lake, I hope you get the green dot.
Yeah, let's walk through this 53-man roster, one group at a time. This is going to be kind of fun, I think.
I think so too.
And so what we have here, 3 position groups on this first slide, and the green is for the rookies. And there's a lot of them, and no really surprises here. I know Paul especially is not thrilled about Stetson Bennett being the backup.
Me either. And last week I said real quick, Mark, I said the Rams would be crazy to do it, and I still think they're crazy. How could you have Stetson? Let's just start there, please. Matthew Stafford, all-pro level quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the league. Shocker. All right. Stetson Bennett, QB2, Mark. What are we doing? And Les Snead said on the broadcast of this last preseason game how it would be such a hard time to get a new quarterback to come in and learn the system. And that all makes sense. Okay, I get it, Les Snead. But I don't care. Stetson knows the system pretty well and is still screwing up. Is that any better? I mean, look, at nothing. I have no personal qualm against Stetson. I'm looking at this from a purely football perspective. The film don't lie. It's been bad. It hasn't been good. I feel terrible about him being our backup. He needs way more development. And again, this is only for 2 weeks, but even for these 2 weeks, not good. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be available who I think are way more talented and have won games as starters in the NFL. And to have Stetson be the backup at this point, I'm totally against it. And McVay and co, like I said last week, they're crazy for that. They're crazy for this decision. What about you, Mark Shoes?
Well, who knows? I mean, it's a calculated risk, 2 games. Keep Matthew Stafford upright, get through it. And I understand the thought process, not wanting to bring another guy in, but the question, my question is really what happens week 3 when they bring Jimmy G back. Do they um, try to sneak? They're not going to sneak anyone anywhere. Can they get? Do they hope that Bennett can make it to the practice squad, or is
I
the
think so. Who
Stetson
else is going
Bennett?
to want?
Yeah,
Who else
right.
is going to want him? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm obviously sounding very negative about him, but how can any other organization watch that and think, oh yeah, we're going to have a roster spot for him? At
yeah,
this moment, there's just no way.
yeah.
So he should be able to stay on our practice squad and just play more football, be in the organization, be a pro for a full season, right? And I get it, all the off-field stuff that he was going through last year, and it's salute to him for overcoming it and coming back. But the dude needs work to be, elevated or to be on a true 53-man roster. So we are taking that calculated risk, and I am nervous as hell about it.
Yeah, and I think as we walk through this roster, we have to
Yeah.
keep that in mind. We have 53 guys here.
Oh
In
yeah.
2 weeks, a Lyric and Jimmy come back,
Yep. And
and
they're
then
and they're coming back. They'll be on this
yeah,
roster, everybody.
and in 4 weeks, I assume Laurel Murchison will be added, and Casey Leviston. Who knows? Your guess is as
Yeah,
good
who
as mine.
knows?
Those are the 2 guys that were put on injured reserve, designated to return after 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So and there's also always the chance that the Rams will look at some waived players and make a
For
change,
sure.
but I think that's less likely. But so there's going to be 4 guys on this 53-man roster that in 4 weeks probably will not be on this roster. So just keep
Yeah, it's
that in mind.
unfortunate. And then Higby, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been on this pod and we've talked about it, Mark, as well, where, I expect him to come back if he does at all, incredibly like week 12 or later because of how late in the season it was last year, a playoff game where he tore everything in
Oh,
his knee practically. So if he comes back at all, which will be, not impossible, but I'll be shocked. And let's just be real, he won't be the same player because everyone talks about it that they need a full year playing and recovery to finally feel like, okay, I have overcame the surgical repair of a knee, Achilles, all that, and they're like, okay, I feel back to normal. So even if he comes back, let's say week 12 or later, I mean, Higby's not going to be the Higby that we all know. So if he does come back, I expect Hunter Long to get bounced. I mean, do you feel the same way, Mark? And I mean, who knows how things shake out by then? I mean, by then
yeah.
the roster might be completely different, but
I can't say anything about Hunter Long because there over the past month, every time I've mentioned that Hunter Long might not make this roster, there's one gentleman that just reams me on the YouTube channel for doubting Hunter Long's ability,
I mean,
and
well,
and he's
he hasn't been
yeah.
crazy good or anything. So I mean, you're not wrong for thinking that.
Yeah, I just thought that Forrestal or the other tight end Kalanick,
Yeah,
they look good. They did, and Paul pointed it out. I thought one of them might bump Long off this roster, but I was wrong.
yeah,
So I would think so, but if I had my way, I don't know, I have no idea where Tyler Higbee is in his rehab.
yeah. Who
Just
knows?
take the whole freaking year off, just
I mean, yeah,
get 100% and come back strong. And that's assuming that Colby Parkinson and Davis Allen and Long do a decent job here. I have high hopes for Parkinson. Now, if our tight ends struggle, maybe I'll change my tune on that.
of course, yeah,
But yeah, I think Hunter Long would be the first guy to go. That's just kind of common sense there, but who knows what the Rams are thinking? And
yeah.
like I said, the big surprise here is to me 3 running backs, but
Me too.
pretty good running back room. And I'm
I like
sure
it.
I suspect Zach Evans will end up on the practice squad. We're all surprised Boston Scott got cut
Oh
a
yeah,
few days ago.
me too.
I had him penciled in, so that was one I got wrong. But
Me too. I mean,
yeah,
Mark, we talked a little bit earlier about the Kyron's new punt return duties and how that factors in how they feel about Blake and Ronnie subbing in. But I really thought Boston would have some type of role on the kickoff because of his return ability that he was really good at with his time in Philly. But I mean, he was banged up this last week, and the Rams just don't want to mess around with injured people anymore. Right, the corner that was formerly, I'm blanking on his name right now. The corner we signed once Darion went down and Darius went down.
Jerry Jacobs.
Jacobs, yes, that's correct. And we were like, oh, he's got familiar with Pleasant, and then he gets injured, and they were like, see you later, you know. And the Rams just do not want to deal with, unless you're one of McVay's guys, right? And usually that's kind of off. That's more offensive players. If you're injured and you're not gonna be around for a while, if there's injury concerns, they're gonna send you away or release you or not want you. So
Well,
I think that's what happened. I think that's what happened with Boston, right? Banged up in that week leading up to the last preseason game. He obviously didn't get any action really at all. It was a Zach Evans show, and they were like, you know what, we're not going to deal with it. So now he's on the Steelers practice squad. Boston Scott is, and I had hopes for him, and I know you did too. But it just shows you that the Rams are savage. They do not care, man.
Whoever has the Giants on their schedule needs to sign Boston Scott, because I don't know if you saw that his stats against the Giants are incredible. And I do these player focus features on occasion when the Rams sign a free agent, make a trade, and it's almost a curse. It seems like every guy I do a player focus on, thinking they're going to be, it's this great new addition, and then a month later they're gone. So maybe I'll stop doing those.
That's good content, man. I mean, the not for long league, you never know, Mark. Right. So it's all good.
Yeah. Hey, let's move on to the wide receivers, and no surprises here, except for the fact that Xavier Smith didn't make it. Yeah. We all thought that he was out there so much. We should have known what that meant, but he was getting it done,
Yeah. And to your point, Mark, about him being out there, like, oh, if you're playing the third preseason game, then it shouldn't be a worry. I get that, but just based off the numbers, it's like, okay, I mean, Nakua, Kupp, and Robinson are the starting trio who are going to be on the field 90% of the time. And then you need Atwell, who's going to rotate in to be a deep, big play guy deep. So we know he didn't play at all. And then Whittington showed out in the first couple of games, so we thought he was a lock. And then Tyler Johnson has playoff experience catching passes from Brady, and we know that he's a solid player to have on your roster in the receiver room. So the numbers were like, hey, Xavier's just going to have to play because there's no one else to play. But I thought with his speed and his return ability, similar to Scott, that I thought he would make this roster and be our punt returner, not Kyron Williams, or he would have some time in kickoff duties based on the nice returns that he had in this preseason. So that is a shock. He'll be for sure a practice squad guy. And if he doesn't get poached, which is a very real possibility that he does get poached, but I am shocked based on everything I just said. I mean, I know Paul, shout out to you, Paul, when you listen to this later. I know you want him on this roster really bad, and we agree. We all agree on all that. And I was disappointing to see that he was not going to be here to contribute now.
By the way, disclaimer here on all these position groups, I just threw, I don't mean this to be representative of a depth chart, X, Y, Z receivers or any of that. It's just that the starters on the top, the backups underneath. And Whittington, it may be a long-term project. I mean, we get so excited about these rookie receivers sometimes, but then you got guys like Nakua that come along. Yeah. If Whittington gets his opportunity, I fully expect him to be an impact player. It's all about opportunity.
Yeah, to that point, Mark, I mean, Robinson's on a one-year deal. Unless he has like a 900-yard season or something as a third receiver, which is very possible. He's got a lot of talent. I mean, they're probably going to move on from him, and Whittington will be stepping in. But everyone's future is up in jeopardy. Let's just be real about this receiver room. Atwell's on the final year of his deal. Excuse me. Kupp has some years left, but the Rams can 100% get out of his deal and not owe a ton of money to him, cap wise or real money, if he has another injury plagued season where he's not 100% or he misses games. Tyler Johnson's on, this is his final year as a Ram as of today. Robinson, like I said, 1-year deal. So it's just Nakua and Whittington are guaranteed for the future.
Yeah, right.
And I expect Whittington to play this year based on all the reports from our great reporters, Gary, Jordan, Adam, and whoever else I'm forgetting. Thank you, everybody. That, Jordan was getting obviously first team reps with Nakua being out, but he was being featured a lot in jet sweep stuff. Blocking, he had been a good blocker based on reports. So, I mean, he's going to rotate in and I think he'll do well if he does have to play. So I think everybody in this, graphic you have nicely put here, Mark, I think they're all going to get some time in some way, shape, or fashion. I know maybe Tyler might be the odd man out in that, but I think top three guys, no doubt. Atwell, no doubt about it. And I would put money on Whittington getting some snaps in the run game, whether him getting the ball on a jet sweep or him blocking or any other crossing route, which, get the ball in his hands and let him run because, you know, he's got some speed to him and some
Yeah,
toughness.
and they could go with some four wide. It was certainly, absolutely going to go with some four wide receiver
That'd be
sets.
cool to see. That'd be cool to
Yeah,
see. I like that.
offensive line, and so we got some issues here. Alaric Jackson is not on this slide.
Yeah.
Casey Leviston, the seventh round draft pick, is on IR, designated for return.
Yeah.
Connor McDermott makes it over AJ Curry. That surprised me, but hey, who knows? I don't have eyes on those scrimmages and the joint
Yeah.
practices and such, and that's probably where they made that decision.
Yeah.
And hey, Logan Brass and Bo Limmer both on this roster, kind of cool. And
Yeah.
Warren McClendon, like we already discussed, could end up starting week one.
I know.
So we got 9 guys, and this is
Yeah.
a group. When a lyric comes back, someone's going to get cut,
Feels that
almost for
way. Yeah.
sure, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And,
the
and I,
interior is great.
Yeah, I mean, look at Avila at center. They were messing around this past week of Limmer taking first team stats. So we talked about it on last week's roundtable. Hell, that was a good idea. You got to practice the break glass scenario, right? If more linemen aren't ready or more linemen go down, have Avila go back to guard where he's proven to be good at. Have Bo Limmer, who has done well according to all reports, as a backup. Or a lot of other teams' fan bases were mad that we snagged him because they thought Limmer is a starting level center. And based on his play, he's shown to prove that. So we have a good backup. Happy about that. But good to hear that Jonah Jackson is going to be hopefully ready to go for week one. Kevin Dotson, hopefully he continues to be one of the best guards in the NFL and continues his good play. Havenstein, like we talked about earlier, coin flip. Hopefully he's back. Note boom, the ultimate sixth man. We're happy that we kept him, even though it's crazy that we paid him to be the future left tackle and then he got beat up by a lark. But he's getting paid a lot of money and his cap hit is a lot. So he better play well, and I hope he does come week one. And talking about Bruss and McDermott maybe being like shockers over some other guys. Per McVay today in his press conference, he said it's not anything that Connor, it's not anything that AJ or others didn't do or Zach Thomas didn't do. It was that McDermott and Bruss were just better than those two guys, and it's as simple as that. So it's a shocker to us, but to the coaching staff, they said no, they performed better than the other guys. So here they are, Mark. I mean, good for them.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Bruss is no longer a complete failure as a third round pick where we had people jumping into the pool. Never forget that, Rams Nation. We had people jumping in the pool for him, and it was a disaster. So not to drag him down or be negative about it, but it's good that he has made significant progress, and now that he is at least on the legit roster as a backup, and maybe one day he'll be good enough to start. Hopefully we'll see what happens. Probably not with the money we invested in the 2 guard spots, but it's good to see. And then McDermott, shout out to him. I tipped my imaginary invisible cap to him for outperforming some other guys that we thought were going to be on this roster. I mean, shoot.
Yeah, and McDermott has some experience too. He's been around a while. He has started in the NFL.
Valuable.
And I made an argument, months ago when people wanted us to move on from Noteboom, and I said, we need to keep guys like that. I'm still traumatized from whatever year that was, where we had 13 different offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but if you think about it, I know I'm more optimistic, I think, than you and Paul are, but with you throw Alaric Jackson into this mix, we have a pretty deep group of offensive linemen. Probably not a single Pro Bowler, although you can make an argument for Dotson, but some pretty darn good players. So I'm happy about where we're at with her.
I mean,
but week one kind of sucks, but overall, it's a pretty good group.
Yeah, and the silver lining with all the injury chaos these last couple of months is that Boom has gotten a lot more reps than he normally would at left tackle or right tackle. I've heard he practices as well. McClendon has got a ton of reps and has improved dramatically, according to reports and coaches, about his time filling in for Havenstein and or Alaric. So It's not like, oh no, Alar got suspended out of nowhere and he practiced all offseason. It's not like, oh no, Havenstein had an ankle injury, the week of the Sunday night football game against the Lions. At least at the bare minimum, Nopu and McClendon were getting really valuable practice time at the facility, and then we're getting joint practice reps with the first team against other teams. Very, very valuable. And I'm happy that happened, but I'm still worried about Aiden Hutchinson kicking their ass. Let's be honest. We'll see what happens.
Let's move on to the edge here. And we
Yeah.
kind of saw this coming. There's the
Yeah, I
five
did.
guys,
Yeah.
couple late cuts.
Mhm.
And I think Brennan Jackson finally getting onto the field is what ended basically O'Shawn Mathis' time with the Rams, although he
Feels like it.
could very well end up on the practice squad.
I think
Um,
so.
but yeah, I'm again another group that I'm really hopeful for. We got to see Young and Verse do it together on the field,
Oh, yeah.
but a lot of upside here, huh?
I think so. I mean, I've been talking about it for weeks since the joint practices have been kicking off. A month or so ago now that we're going to, which is crazy. All reports from opposing reporters, our own Rams reporters, Jared Verse and Byron Young have been kicking ass all off season. Our own practices against ourselves every day at the facility, joint practices, they've been wreaking havoc against, the Texan starters, the Cowboy starters twice, and the Charger starters. That's great news. And we're gonna need it. Obviously, Aaron Donald is not around anymore. But we last year we were frustrated about the lack of sack production from the edge, and you know Byron Young being a rookie player and him being inexperienced, but he had 9 sacks. That's a pretty good year, and we expect a lot from our first round pick Jared Verse. And again, based off joint practice work, based off our own practices, they have been fantastic. I expect a lot from this duo, Mark and Rams Nation. I expect a lot of good play from them. Now, again, it's practice. I get it. As Allen Iverson once said, we're talking about practice, but that's all we can go off of right now, right? That's all we can go off of. And based off what we've heard, they're doing great, and I expect great things. So, hey,
Yeah, again, yeah, there's concerns, but hey, let's just be excited, especially
yeah.
about this group.
And I like
Man,
Michael Hoyt being a rotational player, right, Mark?
yeah,
And I like Hampton as a rotational guy. I think that's perfect. And Hoyt's obviously starting caliber as he proved last year. Now, is it like the ideal starter that you want because he's a bigger dude and all that? And we don't want him dropping into coverage because that's just not his forte. Like, duh. That's why it was frustrating to see that all last year. And I hope that's really not a whole lot we see from Jared Verse or Young either. It's going to happen because they are outside linebackers, and there's going to be moments where they do drop into coverage. That's fine, but not as often as we saw them do it last year. And I think Shula will understand that and let number 0 and number 8, who I think we're probably going to mix up sometimes when we're watching the game at home or at a bar or in person, because a 0 and an 8 from far away, that's going to look the same. They're both jacked up outside linebackers that are, we're going to confuse them, which is fine. But I hope to see a 0 or an 8 in the backfield of opposing offenses a ton, and I think we'll see that.
yeah, and just consider how young this group is
Yeah.
too, and that's another. I talked about the veterans and some veterans with playoff experience that are going to be key. And Mike, I didn't mention Michael Hoyt. I should have. And he's going to be really important with this young group.
I think so.
He's
Yeah.
that's a pretty young group, but a lot of potential there. And really no surprises. Keir Thomas and Zach Van Valkenburg, maybe both of them end up on the practice squad, and maybe O'Shawn Mathis as well. So the defensive line, we got two more rookies, and then we got Kobe Turner and Bobby Brown.
Yeah.
Tyler Davis,
Mm-hmm.
hopefully he can help in the interior there. I think that's where he's going to play. Paul kind of thinks he could end up playing outside a little bit, three technique or
It's
whatever. And then,
possible. Yeah.
yeah, then Mr. Irrelevant, Braden Fisk, another guy with tons of upside.
Yeah.
And Corey Durden, I don't know what the Rams are going to do here when Laurel Murchison comes back. Maybe it'll depend on how Durden plays. I know he had
100%.
Durden had a pretty good preseason, I think, and
Yeah.
maybe the Rams add a defensive lineman, subtract a linebacker. There's a lot of ways it could go here, but this is probably the group that, even though, Fisk and Turner, I'm really excited about them, and Tyler Davis as well. It may be, to me, I don't want to be over dramatic, but I'm a little concerned about this group being able to hold up over a 60-minute game against some of these rushing attacks.
Yeah.
But this Fisk and Turner, that we know it well. We don't know. We're hopeful. What we're hearing about Fisk is all good. We got to see it on the
Oh yeah.
field, and we know Kobe Turner is pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, just like Verse and Young, I mean, Fisk has been in that category of guys who have just been kicking ass all off season and all leading into the season. Practice, the facility, joint practice. He's one of those guys you can throw in that category of we expect a lot, and good. A lot of capital was spent on him, and we expect big things. And that he's going to be one of the starting, three technique defensive tackles. Kobe Turner should have been defensive rookie of the year. I expect good things from him to continue and for him to grow. Now a captain, good for him. Not a shocker. And Bobby Brown. Now we've talked about in this pod, he needs to be available. And when he is available, his impact of play needs to increase. What I mean by that is that we appreciate his run stuffing ability, but can you make a difference when it is a pass play when we are in our 3-4 defense? So everyone real quick, our base 3-4 defense would be these three right here in the middle. Bobby Brown to the nose, Braden Fisk and Kobe Turner as D tackles, and then we have Byron Young and Jared Verse as the outside linebackers. So when teams say, oh, you're in your base 3-4 defense, like you're trying to stop the run maybe, and they throw on us, can Bobby Brown be effective trying to get after the quarterback? And he has shown an ability that lacks in that department, where Tyler Davis, from his time at Clemson and his action in the preseason, is showing that he is more shifty, he is more nimble in getting past offensive linemen and getting to the quarterback. And he can also be a nose tackle and stuff the run and do everything that Bobby Brown does. So that's going to be interesting, for me, and I'm sure Paul as well, because we agree on that. And I know you do too, Mark and Rams Nation, for the most part, that Bobby Brown isn't cutting it or he's just one dimensional. I mean, I expect Tyler Davis to supplant him at some point in this season and get those reps at that nose tackle or be moved around that Paul wants to see at a traditional D tackle spot. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out at that nose tackle spot between him, Bobby Brown, and Tyler Davis, the rookie.
Yeah, I think the Rams will rotate to some degree,
Yeah,
regardless.
they
It's just
will.
it's a matter of if Tyler Davis, starts getting more snaps than Brown at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, what do we got? This is the group that we all, we had a bit of a wake up call today. No Ernest Jones and five
Crazy.
linebackers, which is to me is kind of crazy. I don't really have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Maybe the Rams are keeping Neal there as insurance. Reader and Roseboom are not going to be household names anytime soon,
No.
but they're solid.
Yeah.
Reader certainly has a lot. They both have a lot of experience actually, and Hummel, great special teams player, and then you got the two undrafted free agents. And so the surprise here was really Neal as the fifth inside linebacker to me.
Yeah.
And we'll see if that holds when they start bringing players back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sean McVay's happy with this group apparently.
Oh yeah, like we talked about at the beginning of this pod. I mean, McVay is not shocked how this group has performed. He liked how this group performed when Ernest Jones was missing time, and how they didn't miss a beat when Ernest was not at practice or not enjoying practice. And look, like we had stated earlier, is this group perfect? Of course not. But I liked how Roseman played last year. He played admirably. He was a good contributor, and then he was subbed out when we did go dime package. Sometimes we go the 3-4-esque nickel, where it'd be three tackles, two outside linebackers, and one inside linebacker. So I expect Roseboom to be on the field a majority, to be that 3-down linebacker as of right now. And then Troy Reader is a good thumper. He is good attacking downhill, but he has pass coverage flaws. To the time we won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. But I don't expect him to be on the field a whole lot, truthfully, because we are, as I expect it to be, and I know you agree with me, Mark, a lot of nickel and dime packages this upcoming year. So I know everyone's like, "Oh my God, what does Troy Reader have on the Rams? How does he keep getting away with this?" And it's funny to see that, and I get a little chuckle out of that. But he does have value. It's not in pass coverage, but he does have value and experience. So those are going to be the two guys, as McVay said. And then Hummel won the green dot as well. That's good depth. And then I expect Omar Speights to crack this starting lineup at some point this season. And why do I say that, Mark? Because of the history of how the McVay era, has handled inside linebackers. Let's just rewind real quick. Let's go down memory lane since he's been our coach. So it was Mark Barron and Alec Ogletree who got a big contract, right? He played through 2017, and then what did the Rams do? Hey, we have this undrafted guy named Corey Littleton who we think is just as good as you. So see you later, Alec Ogletree. Boom, traded his ass away after we gave him a big deal for a middle linebacker. Then it was Mark Barron and Corey Littleton. And everyone was like, oh, wow, Corey Littleton's actually kind of better than Ogletree. And then we rode with that up, into a Super Bowl loss, unfortunately, against the Patriots, where, Corey Littleton and that defense did a good job. That was good enough to win that game. And I don't mean to bring up painful memories, but he was a serviceable, good inside linebacker. Then we go to 2019, pretty much the same group. Solid. We don't make the playoffs. Things change. And then it was Corey Littleton's like, hey, I've been a good inside linebacker. Where is my contract? And the Rams were like, hey, we have this guy named Micah Kaiser, and we also traded for an inside linebacker named Kenny Young from the Ravens. If you remember where we sent away Marcus Peters, we got Kenny Young in return. We're like, hey, we think those guys are just as good as you. See you later. Enjoy your time as a Raider. He signed a big contract. Things didn't work out. Shocker. Then we go into the 2020 season. See you later, Mark Barron as well. Micah Kaiser, Kenny Young is the group. Then Kenny Young gets hurt. Micah Kaiser gets hurt. And then it's Troy Reader cracks the lineup. And Kenny Young is playing really good as well for that number one defense in the entire NFL. Then what happens? 2021 comes, rolling around. We draft Ernest Jones. Kenny Young is playing fantastic, with Trayvon Howard and whoever else. And then Kenny Young gets shipped away to Denver after EA was having a good start to his season. And the Rams are like, hey, we have this guy we dropped in the third round named Ernest Jones, who we think's just as good as you, and we don't have to pay as much as you. Then he's in, wins a Super Bowl, is a good player for us, and now we end up back here. So why do I bring up this long soliloquy of how the Rams have handled inside linebackers? Is because I think history is going to repeat itself, Mark. And I think Omar Speights is going to crack this lineup at some point this season. I just have that feeling, whether it's in place of Reader, whether it's in place of Roseboom, I think that is 100% going to happen. And based off everything I just said about the Rams' history of inside linebackers, I would bet money on that.
and interesting you bring up Corey Littleton and Kenny Young, especially Corey Littleton, because he signed a big contract with the Raiders, and it did not work out well for the Raiders.
No,
I wouldn't call it a washout, but it was not a good signing. And Kenny Young, I don't think he got a big contract with Denver or anything like that, but he was just another linebacker. And, so I forgot about Corey, and Rams made the right. And, I don't know if we could go back and check social media, how Ram fans are responding to the Rams not keeping Corey Littleton. It was probably very similar to what we're hearing today.
All three of those guys who were playing good for us that got sent away or didn't get re-signed, the exact reaction with Ernest was on that similar level. Now, Ernest is better than all three of those guys by, I think, a wide margin, just based on the film and everything we've seen from Ernest. And I know you agree as well, Mark, and I'm sure Rams Nation agrees with that point. But the Rams have done this over and over and over again, and every time it ended up working out, which is kind of crazy. So I get it, Rams Nation. It sucks that Ernest is gone. I know you don't want to see Troy Reader and Roseboom as your week one starters. And again, I do think Omar is going to crack in there eventually. But the Rams have done this, and it has worked out every time since McVay has been our head coach. It's really crazy, and that's just how it is, man.
And I would think, just a guess here, and I hate to burst any player's bubble, not that they're going to care what I think, but I suspect that in 4 weeks we'll have 4 inside linebackers rather than 5. That's just my guess, though.
Feels that way.
Feels that way. I don't know who it might be. If we took a vote among Ram fans, I have a feeling who they might elect or
Right.
expelling from this roster.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, just everyone's aware, cornerback safety, the safe way of presenting this is defensive backs because some of these guys are all over the place.
Yeah.
I have, you know, I have Quentin Lake listed here. He could very easily be listed as a safety, but so
Yeah.
please bear with it. Just 11 defensive backs, 6 cornerbacks, 5
Yeah.
safeties. You could flip it. Trey Tomlinson goes to IR. We
And that's
already lost.
unfortunate, man. That's
Yeah,
unfortunate. And
right.
everyone out there, he's not on the IR that's designated to return at some point. He's on the IR where they're shutting him down for the whole year. And that sucks for him, man, because the hype around his college play at TCU, he was a fantastic corner. He won the best corner in the nation award, and we had high hopes for him. And it just hasn't worked out. And I don't know what injury he's had. Uh, Probably going on for a while now because you don't just go to IR randomly the week of the season or leading up to the season, the weeks going into it. So that sucks for him for his development to get better. And what a bummer. And then obviously Darion Kendrick is out for the year, most likely with his torn ACL. So, we're pretty thin here, but if Darius Williams plays to his Super Bowl level season, then we have a Pro Bowl level corner. If he plays to his Jacksonville Jaguars level, then we have a Pro Bowl All Pro level corner. And then if Trey Davis White is anywhere close to his All Pro, what a bargain that was for 9-10 million as well. So I feel good about the starters. I feel good about Kobe Durant filling in. But if any of those guys go down, then we're holding our breath if something else happens, right? I mean, shoot.
Yeah, Woods Wallace, who knows?
Yeah,
They
who knows
performed
on
well in
them?
camp.
Yeah,
They'll probably mostly be special teams guys. And then
yeah, for sure.
yeah, the late cuts. I thought Cam Lampkin had a real shot at making this roster.
Me too.
Sean Jolly seems like he's been around forever.
Yeah.
And one or both of those guys could end up on the practice squad. And Darion Kendrick, he's going to come back. He was really making strides, and I think we're going to hear from him next year. And then the safety group, kind of a continuation. Jalen McCullough is a guy that really stood out all preseason, and
Yeah.
the other four. I thought I had a sneaky feeling that Yeast might lose a spot on this roster. I have no.
Yeah, there was
I
that.
have.
There was that chance for sure.
Yeah, I don't have any data or anything I can point to that led me to that conclusion. Just the hype I was hearing about some of these other guys.
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd keep 11 defensive backs, so that may have saved him, may have saved Woods and Wallace as well. But John Johnson, he's a solid safety, reliable, knows the defense, can wear the green dot if you need him. Curl, everybody's saying that he has been lights out
Good.
so far. And Kinchin's a lot of promise there. And then McCullough and these two young guys. So, I feel good about this group. Jason
Me
Taylor
too.
and Tanner Engel, I think, were the late cuts.
Yeah.
Kind of saw it coming with Taylor.
Me too.
Engel's played well. He's for 2 years now in the preseason. I think he's played well.
Yeah.
Just a numbers game. How do you feel
I
about
think
the
so.
safeties here? How do you feel about this group?
I feel good about it. Yeah. I feel very good about it, Mark. And Cam Curl, same thing like the other players we highlighted. He's been kicking ass. John Johnson's been a green dot wearer. He continues to be okay taking vet minimums to be a starter or get playing time. Great to have him back, of course. Russ Yeast, the former starter last year, so he has tons of experience, who I thought played really well at the dime linebacker spot, which is really nice as well. So anyone out there, that is when you sub out a Troy Reader and you put a safety in that position. So I think he'll do well there. And then Cameron Kitchens, for all reports, has really improved and has really made a name for himself as a rookie. So don't be shocked if he, starts at some point over maybe a John Johnson, towards some part of the season. So I feel good about it, Mark. I mean, hey, that's great news. We got to make ourselves feel a little bit better now that that Ernest Jones is no longer here. We gotta be like, okay, who could be a good player in place of that, or who can make up for that if someone's got to come in or not. And I feel good about the secondary and who would be out there and the depth of the safety room for sure.
Yeah, feel the same. We know who our special teamers are: Ward, Evans, and Cardi. I don't. I think Ward's an excellent long snapper. The other two, um, they have some proven to do in my mind. And then we already talked about
Sure.
Kyron returning punts,
Yeah.
Tutu
And then,
returning kickoffs. I think we've known that since Tutu announced it during that
oh yeah,
podcast a couple of months
yeah.
ago, right?
Yeah, I know that there was obviously like the Boston Scott Xavier Worthy that we were holding out, like, hey, maybe they can be valuable there. But Tutu talked in the third person, proclaimed himself to be the return man, and I think that's good. He's got incredible speed, and I hope he breaks some big runs and scores some touchdowns for us because we will need it desperately on
Well,
that side of the ball or that phase of football.
I have another slide here that just interesting things about this team. Five
Yeah,
inside linebackers. We already talked about that.
yeah,
Five undrafted free agents,
the youth movement,
2024 undrafted free agents, all on defense. That's
crazy.
who would have guessed? I think that I wonder how often that happens. It must be pretty rare.
I think so too.
Tutu, yeah, Tutu Atwell, Bobby Brown, the only players now left from the 2021 draft.
Yeah,
Uh,
crazy, dude.
yeah, we have 14 rookies, 9 draft picks. We had 10 draft picks. The only draft pick not on this roster right now is Casey Leviston. So this number could tick up if
Yeah,
he gets added to the 53.
he will. I
And then
think.
yeah, and then we have 25 players with 1 year or less experience. Pretty
So
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, and I have
Oh,
six total undrafted free agents. That's including Corey Durden, who was he's I think he bounced around a little bit last year before the Rams latched onto him. So pretty man, crazy day. What was if you were going to say? I mean, obviously the biggest surprise of the day was the Ernest Jones trade. As far as the
yeah.
53-man roster, what was the biggest surprise to you?
Good question. I would say the Xavier not making it in the wide receiver room. Like we had talked about earlier, the kick return, punt return ability I thought was going to be incredibly valuable and is what got him to crack in to this 53-man roster. So definitely him. That was very surprising. To my most surprising for sure.
Yeah, I thought Neil was a guy that, Paul had talked him up a little bit, and he wasn't really on my radar. And just doing the numbers, they're not going to carry 5 linebackers. There's no way. And if they had kept Ernest Jones, maybe that's kind of the what Sean McVay is telling us. We needed to make room for some of these guys, but 5 linebackers, one of them being Neal, and that's not counting Ernest Jones. That's pretty incredible. If you had told me that this morning, I would have said, hey, and I think you need to look at this roster one more time and do
Yeah.
some number crunching. How are you going to carry 5 inside linebackers? But yeah, good stuff. So I don't know, overall, this time of year, I'm always just super, super optimistic. I stayed optimistic during the Jeff Fisher years, actually.
Yeah,
So, so,
baby.
so take that for what it's worth. But man, it's going to be fun watching all these young players out there,
Yeah.
especially in the early going.
Yeah. And again, everybody, if you haven't subscribed, hit the notification bell. If you are watching on YouTube, very, very, very appreciated if you do. It helps, this channel out. It helps other Rams fans and their, YouTube algorithms be able to see this video or get, notified or suggested to watch it. And we're very thankful for anybody listening in. Spotify, Apple Music, iHeart, wherever you listen to your podcast as well. We're very thankful for everybody tuning in. And man, oh man, buckle your seatbelt. It's been a crazy off season. It's going to be even crazier, I predict. Things are just never ending with this team, it feels like. And again, the NFL, not for long. Let's hope that we get to enjoy this good postseason run, a good season, a winning season. And I feel good about the 53 and then the 2 guys who will eventually rejoin us, a Garoppolo and a Lark after the suspension. So, man, oh man, what a day, Mark.
Yeah, it was fun. And just so everyone knows, we'll see what happens with the practice squad.
That
I
too,
may
yeah.
come back with a video or a pod making some predictions there, or at least, talking about the guys that are selected in a couple of days here. And then over the next week, I'll be sharing my power rankings for what that's worth and some game picks and lots of good stuff. And we'll definitely be doing the Tuesday night roundtables, and a lot more content coming at you as the season gets rolling.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Ian. That was fun. A lot of good stuff. We'll get Paul
Good.
back next week. Paul will easily add an extra half hour to our discussion. He always has some good insights. And hey, Paul, if you watch this, you have your assignment. We need some nicknames for some of these rookies. There's a lot of them.
Yep, there is, man. And again, thank you, Ram Nation. And oh man, just be as calm as you can, be as rational as you can, and in McSneed we trust. Sean McVay, Leslie.
I'm with you on that. Okay, Ian. Thanks a lot, man. Out here. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.